I don't know if you guys have read it or not yet, but you should know this video contains massive spoilers for all of Volume 6 of Chainsaw Man. So if you don't want to be spoiled, maybe consider turning back right about now, because it's on. Hi guys, Okama Otaku here, the leader of the Chainsaw Pirates. Thanks for joining me and welcome back. We're here to talk about the second full volume spanning arc of the series, that is the Bomb Girl arc. And this volume, Volume 6, is titled Boom, Boom, Boom. And we're going to cover chapters 44 through 52. Now, it is my personal favorite arc and volume of the entire series, and hopefully by the time this review is done, you'll understand why and maybe even agree. And so, before we get into the review proper, we're going to discuss the cover art as usual, and this is a beautiful one. As usual, Fujimoto doesn't miss. This one features a naked Rize just kind of sitting in the middle of the panel, and to her right we see Denji in his chainsaw form, and to her left we see an image of the Bomb Devil. And it's actually a really, really beautiful cover. The background of it is kind of this beautiful light purple cover with some smoke clouds and things going around them. The title logo is dark pink, and the author's name in both Japanese and English are blue. And the English translation of the title is in purple. It's gorgeous. You know, like I say every volume review, Fujimoto pretty much doesn't miss with his cover art. His art in general is really, really great, and I just hope that you guys can appreciate it, because every review we do here, we're gonna take a moment to appreciate it every time. So, when you last joined me at the end of Volume 5 and the end of Chapter 43, we witnessed Rize display that she's a bad bitch. You know, she single-handedly took down an attacker, and she was also revealed to be someone that at least one devil on the planet seems to want to show some deference and even fear to. So we move into chapter 44, titled Boom Boom Boom, and Denji, feeling a little conflicted, asks Rize why she wants to run away with him, and she says it's because she likes him. And Denji says that he's tempted, but he kind of likes the way that every part of his life is going right now. You know, he's not poor anymore. He's making, like, friends. He's even, like, moving up in importance within the bureau, and it's giving him more freedom to kind of live his life, which is the whole reason that they can even be out alone, because as we know, Beam is, like, trailing behind in the ground somewhere on this date right now. And he says that, you know, considering all those things, that he's not really in a rush to give any of that up, which is fully understandable considering how he had lived his life up until the point that the story began. But he also says that he still wants to see her, and she asks if there's someone else, and she then goes to kiss him really deeply. And they show the panel of Denji falling backwards during the kiss, and they reveal that she bit off his fucking tongue. So Denji then goes to pull his cord, because he doesn't know what's happening yet, but you bit my tongue off, so nothing good is happening. But she cuts off his arm before he can do that. And then she jumps on him, and she kisses him again, and she apologizes because she intends to take his heart. And suddenly, Beam jumps out of the ground and grabs Denji. And as he runs away, he's kind of like mad at himself and cursing himself because he didn't recognize her scent, which is that of a bomb. And as he says this, Rize pulls a pin out of her neck, and it makes her head and her arm blow up, and then they immediately reform, and they reveal her to be a Bomb Devil hybrid. Oh, listen. The reveal, iconic, okay? Iconic. Even with it being named the Bomb Girl arc, I didn't see it coming, you know? I probably should have. I've been reading manga, watching anime for so long that it was telegraphed to us pretty clearly. I should have been able to see it coming. I didn't. It caught me off guard, and I fucking loved it. And so, after she transforms, she calls Beam a thief. And then she uses God, half the reason I love this arc so much and half the reason I love this character so much is because a lot of times when I'm reading fictional series, I say to myself, wow, I could really use your abilities a lot more creatively and a lot more effectively than you do. That's a big part of why I love One Piece so much, because the writer, Eiichiro Oda, is really great about showing his characters who have different abilities, typically devil fruits, and using them in just creative and inventive ways that, you know, may not be a first apparent application of said ability. And so that's why I love this volume so much, because Rize, Bomb Girl, is chock full of that shit. You know, she is a bomb devil, and so much like every other devil in the series, she comprises what she is. So she is essentially a walking explosion, you know what I'm saying? And she uses that beautifully. Let's get into it. So After she transforms, she calls Beam a thief, and then she turns her legs into an explosion and uses that to launch herself into the path that that Beam is currently trying to use to escape with Denji, and it kind of lands in front of them like in an instant. And oh god, I love it so much. It's so cool. And that's not even the beginning of it. This is the end of our chapter here. This is the end of chapter 44. We're gonna move soon here into chapter 45. But just know that as I go through this, she is going to repeatedly do this. She's going to repeatedly show these incredible uses of her abilities. And to be fair, they're not even super incredible uses of them. Not to me anyway. I think that they are uses that make sense. But the reason they feel so incredible to me is because, like I said, so often in fiction you see characters with amazing abilities to do whatever that don't use them well, you know? But I love Rize, I love the Bomb Girl, because she uses her explosion abilities just, with so much perfection. It's great. So let's end here. Alright, so we're on chapter 45 now, and it's titled A Fine Day for Explosions. And let me tell you girls, let me tell you kids, let me tell you everyone, it's a fine day for explosions. Rize is about to begin flexing on us, okay? There's no other way to put it. So Beam tries after she launches herself in front of Beam and confronts them. Beam tries to run away, but she does it again and cuts them off because she can move around so fucking fast using her explosions. And then she tells Beam, "Listen, I'll let you live if you just leave Denji behind. Drop the body and leave. It's fine. You can live." But of course he denies, and he tries to transform his shark head into its full shark form to attack her. But she's completely unbothered by that, and she just goes to touch his face and blows him to the ground with an explosion. It's just that quick. And so right after that, 3 civilian devil hunters show up. You know, as we know, there is a civilian sector where regular people can hunt devils as well. I imagine that they don't typically go after bomb devils, gun devils, and ghost devils. They probably go for, you know, the smaller shits like I don't know, coffee devils and tomato devils and things like that, which, you know, we know are a thing. We had a car devil reference and a coffee devil reference, and the first devil we saw besides Pochita in chapter 1 was the tomato devil that Denji killed. So there are devils that, you know, are on a spectrum of power that is much lower than others. You know, obviously though, this bomb devil Rize is not a tomato devil. And so Rize turns to see them and she's like, "Girl, whatever," and she snaps her fingers and they die. It's really, I'm not even exaggerating. She snaps her fingers, a small ember trails off of them, floats in front of them, blows them up, and they're done. Quick work. And so in that brief moment of her doing that, Beam is able to get away with Denji, and she comments on that when she turns around and finds them gone. And so after this, we cut away to a 2nd Division facility where Aki is training with a hunter named Nomo, who offers him a position at that division and tells him that within 5 years he could be promoted to a very high position. But they leave, and Angel Devil asks Aki why he didn't mention that he only has 2 years of life remaining to the man, and tells him that Power told him about it. And then he calls Aki lucky, saying that he wishes he could die so soon, and then suddenly Nomo appears again, and he's begging them for help. So we cut to Beam, who's heavily injured, and he has arrived with Denji, and he reveals to Aki that the Gun Devil's partner, the Bomb Devil, is coming. Aki wonders why Beam knows that, but then we reveal that Makima threatened Beam he threatened Beam with death so that he wouldn't speak about it further. And so Nomo sees the human Rize. She's back in her human form, and she's kind of like standing at the other end of the complex, and she's like calling out to him and, you know, begging for help after a devil attack. But Nomo notices that while doing this, she has a really wide grin on her face. You know, she's saying she's scared and just got attacked by a devil, but she has a huge grin on her face. And it becomes very apparent to her and to us that she's not going to just let them in, so she decides to pull her pin again and just murder them all. And then we end our chapter. So now we begin chapter 46, which is titled Massacre Melody, which is a great title name. I gotta say, Fujimoto is really good about his cover pages, about his volume titles, about his chapter titles. The man's got something special going, you know, he really does. But in this title, before Rize can move to attack, 2 hunters, Kato and Tanabe, show up, and they use their devil abilities, which are unknown, to grow mold in her heart and her intestines, which stuns her and makes her start to cough up blood. And they say they plan plans to stall her until the mold consumes her fully, but she deals with it by blowing off her own head. And then her disembodied head throws the decapitated head at the two men. The head then yells, boom, and it blows up, and it reveals a fully formed bomb devil hybrid. Fucking, let's pause there. Let's pause there. They come up with what seemed like a plan that would work against most people, against most devils, against most enemies that they will face. You know, mold is pretty fucking sickening. It even showed that it immediately started to work on her when she started coughing up blood. But to blow off your own head and then use that head as a grenade to catch your enemies off guard, magnifique. And it's a stunt that could only really be performed by, you know, a devil, since they're immortal. You know, being beheaded doesn't mean a lot to them. And so, gosh, the hunters are distracted, and then the disembodied torso, which threw the head and still remains, it runs up on them. Nomo tries to use a fox devil, but the torso grabs onto him and blows up. And then there are many devil hunters now, and Rize just keeps us up. There are many dead hunters laying around her now, and she just keeps assaulting the surviving members. Nomo survives the explosion, and Rize dodges his attacks. Before she can kill him, though, he is saved by the 2nd Division Lieutenant. And so we cut to Aki, who's in the car, and he's trying to drive himself, Angel, Denji, and Beam away from the scene. He commands Angel Devil, who is quite reluctant, to give Denji some blood so he can heal. Suddenly, Aki gets a strange vision from the future, and Rize appears in front of the car, and she's just holding the heads of the 2nd Division Lieutenant and Nomo. And we end the chapter there. Chilling. And so now we get into chapter 47, which is titled Luck with Women. And Rize takes the time to explain that she killed those people as a display of her power, hoping that it would scare them enough so that, you know, they won't make her have to kill more, and they'll just leave Denji and leave to run away. But Aki tries to, you know, drive around her, try to swerve around her in the car, which annoys her. And so she launches herself onto the car with another explosion. I love every time she does that, because it's such a cool way to travel, you know? And she gets annoyed because she knows that she's about to have to blow this car up in order to get to Denji, but she's also annoyed because she knows that doing so is going to cause a fire due to the gas in the vehicle. And then before she can actually do that, the violence fiend comes out of nowhere and kicks her off of the car. Aki thanks him, and then he tries to kick her again, but he gets surprised that she can actually block his attack. She compliments his strength, and then she readies herself to fight him, but he realizes that she is way fucking stronger than he is, and so he runs away. He retreats after he calls out to Kobeni, who happened to be laying there behind Rize on the ground because she was injured, and she just kind of balls up into a fetal position and starts to cry while Rize looks down on her. And before we know it, Rize just leaves. She leaves her alone, which makes sense to me because she expressed that she didn't really want to have to kill anyone, and there was no real reason to kill Kobeni. Kobeni wasn't even trying to fight her. She was already injured and scared that she was about to be killed. So it was a good character moment that she didn't kill her. It lined up with what she said just a few panels ago in this very chapter. And so, as this is all going on, we cut to Denji, who wakes up as they're flying down the highway, and Rize lands on a truck that is driving behind them right now. So he transforms into his chainsaw form, he cuts through the car, and Aki warns him not to do that, though, because he's lacking blood right now. But he's a hothead, he's a shonen protagonist, so that doesn't matter to him. And he angrily yells at Rize, complaining that every woman that he meets tries to kill him, and that they all seem to just want his chainsaw heart, but they don't want him. And Rize says, my feelings are true. And it kind of makes him falter a little bit, but then Aki's like, girl, no, get it together. Like, she's a devil, and get it together. And so he snaps back, Denji snaps back, and he's like, you know what, I don't even need you, Rize, because I have Makima. And so she says that running away would have been useless, because he's clearly still under Makima's influence, and even though he doesn't want to kill Rize, he launches at her to try and capture her. And then we end the chapter there. In chapter 48, titled Kaboom, Kaboom, Kaboom. And I've got to be honest with you. I can't wait to see this chapter animated, because as I've been harping on about all volume review, Rize uses her powers extremely creatively for what it is, and I can't wait to see the sequence that I'm going to talk about here shortly animated, because it's going to be, the anime is being done by Studio Mappa, and so that means it's going to be beautiful. But the fight begins as Rize destroys the truck that she's standing on, and that sends Denji flying backwards into a building. And she tells Denji that he really should start trying to use his powers more creatively and efficiently and fight a bit smarter. And she demonstrates what she means by making a finger that was severed from her and caught in Denji's chain explode, which, we knew she could do remote detonations already from when she threw her decapitated head at the Division 2 agents and made that blow up. But the fact that she had the presence of mind to realize her finger had been cut off and that it was going to be another opportunity to attack Denji, I'm telling you, every time she does anything, I fucking love it. So Denji leaps out of the smoke and he tries to attack, but Rize dodges him and blasts them both into the sky. And she just kind of like blasts him like several times, like high in the sky. And then she uses her explosions to kind of maneuver herself as he's flying further into the sky. She uses her explosions to like maneuver around him to get above him. And then she transforms her leg into a missile, like a full missile silo. And she uses that to like explode them back to the ground and like blast him into the fucking ground. I can't wait to see it animated, because oh god, did you hear what just happened? Let me run it back one more time, okay? Let me run it back one more time. So he goes to attack her out of the smoke, but she dodges, and then she uppercuts him, and she blasts him into the sky. Repeatedly blasts him into the air, so he's high held in the air, and then midair, she uses her explosions to change her trajectory to maneuver around Denji and get above him in the sky as he's still going up. Then she transforms her leg into a missile and uses that to explode them both back down to the ground so fast that it caves Denji into the ground below them. I cannot wait to see it animated. Do you hear me? I cannot wait to see that animated. It's going to be a while, most likely, but I cannot wait to see them animate just this sequence. I mean, even leading up to now, there's been so many things I can't wait to see animated, but this was beautiful. This is what I was talking about when I say she used her abilities so well. Denji's a ground fighter at this point, and so she takes advantage of it by taking the fight into the air, where because she uses explosions to move around, she's got full air maneuverability and it can do what she wants to, and it was so great. And so after she used her leg missile to blow them back to the ground and cave Denji into the ground, she picks up his now severed torso and, using one hand, she just kind of like boom and blows it up several times and leaves it looking just like a big smoldering bag of meat. Homegirl put work in. And so she gets ready to, she's walking through the building and she's getting ready to, and they're showing that the building is destroyed, it's full of explosion marks and damage, and there's like bodies littered everywhere. And Aki, who was laying down on the ground, hiding amongst the corpses, waits till she walks by and takes his sword and cuts her arm off, which makes her drop Denji. Beautifully done. High marks for Aki. And at that, we end the chapter. Moving into chapter 49, which is titled Shark Hurricane. Aki goes to attack Rize, but he suddenly gets a future vision and dodges and then falls back. This annoys Rize, who then turns her arm into a missile and slams it into the ground. The aftermath creates a huge, massive explosion, which blows her back and nearly engulfs Aki, but he's saved when the Violence Fiend pulls him out of the blast, and then the Violence Fiend goes to apologize for being late in the first place, but Aki just says that he's never been so happy to see a fiend before. And so the two of them stand back and they watch as Rize says that 2-on-1 is unfair, and then she asks for a handicap. And the Violence Fiend, who is much nicer than his name would suggest, considers that for a moment, but Aki, being the badass that he always is, flat out refuses that, like, bitch, no. Shortly after, Rize reveals that she was just bullshitting in the first place, and the Typhoon Devil crashes through a wall in this new, ridiculously massive form, and he's ready to join the fight. So, after that, we cut to the Angel Devil, who, in an interesting character moment, is walking amongst the rubble, and he's comforting the different dying people, by giving them mercy deaths, which, just a few chapters ago, he seemed to be very much against the idea of doing. But we see him walking around, just kind of pulling the lifespan out of those who are already dying, which is technically a murder, but it's also very clearly a mercy killing, because these are people who've been caught up in the various blasts and the fight so far, and they're gonna die. They're gonna die. So he's just doing them a favor and making it happen quicker. And then he moves on to Denji, who is currently being taken care of by Beam, and he gives him enough blood to get back to a full recovery, which Beam is delighted by and super excited by, because, again, if you remember, he's a huge fan of Denji, so anything bad that happens to Denji is a bad thing for Beam. Anything good for Denji is a good thing for Beam. And so, Angel Devil tells Denji that he has to choose. Are you going to kill Rize, or are you going to give her your heart? And Denji says that's an easy choice. And then he tells them that he's worried about her power, and Beam suggests that he should probably use his chainsaws to move around the battlefield a little bit more effectively by wrapping the chains from his chainsaws around poles and structures and things and swinging around, which in my head is giving us very, very Spider-Man or Batman even influence. But Denji, being the thick-headed person that he is, completely misunderstands what Beam is saying to him, and instead he tells Beam to transform into his full shark form, and then he uses his chain like a horse rein, and he goes to ride Beam into battle. And the Typhoon Devil then moves in to confront them. Now that's the end of our chapter, and I just want to say, in the chapter, in the moment, even just now doing my review, I was thinking about the moment where Beam tells Denji that he should, how he should move around the field, how he should fight. But Denji goes and tells him to transform into a full shark form, and then he tries to rein him up and ride him like a shark. Not tries to, this is what happens. And initially that seemed like a stupid thing to do. I was like, honey, that's not what he was telling you to do at all. What are you doing? But they're fighting a Typhoon Devil. Like, they're fighting a water devil, effectively. So it might not be the worst idea. I don't think that the title of the chapter is Shark Hurricane. I don't recall that. We'll get into it in chapter 50 here next. But I don't recall that that ends up really being a super pertinent part of the fight. But in a moment where I am at battle for my life, and I am observing my circumstances and trying to figure out, what I am working against and what I have to work with. If I'm fighting a tsunami devil, a big water storm devil, and I have an ally here who can transform into a shark, and what I need to do is to be able to move around more effectively during this fight, I don't think that riding the shark is the worst plan. I gotta be honest with you. Especially not, they don't show it, but I'm only considering it now. But if Beam can move around through solid objects like he normally does, one, while transformed into a full shark, and two, while taking someone else with him, then this actually was a super big brain move on Denji's part. But we don't know any of that. It's all speculation, so let's just assume he was being an idiot and just misunderstanding the directions. And that ends our chapter. Chapter 50 is titled Sharknado, which, girl. Aki and the Violence Fiend watch on as Denji, Beam, Rize, and the Typhoon Devil fight. And Denji moves to slice off Rize's leg, but she's immediately healed by the Typhoon Devil's blood. And meanwhile, Aki grabs the Angel Devil by the hand and sacrifices 2 months of his life, because while they're fighting, the Typhoon Devil is like whipping up a big ass storm, big enough that the wind and water pressure is threatening to pull Aki and the Angel Devil into said typhoon, which would likely result in their death. We don't know what's happening inside the typhoon, but it's a Typhoon Devil, so we're gonna just assume that nothing good is happening inside that typhoon. And as the angel is getting like blown away and sucked into it, first Aki tries to grab like his shirt or some shit like that, whatever case it is, but it's slipping. And then the Angel Devil tells him to let go, and Aki briefly considers it. He lets him go, but then he grabs his hand and pulls him back in. And that act sacrifices 2 months of his remaining life, and the Angel Devil is like, girl, what? Why would you do that? And Aki's like, well, if you're gonna die, please go and do it somewhere away from me. because I'm tired of watching my allies die in front of me. He's still dealing with the trauma from Himeno dying, and we don't even know if he's got, like, we can assume that he does, but we don't even know if he has, like, former partners who've also died in the line of duty. But we cut to Denji as he is slicing the Typhoon Devil to shreds. I'm talking about fucking him up. And from above, Rize blasts him and Beam into the ground. And then Denji crawls out of it, barely conscious, and, Denji crawls out of the mouth of a barely conscious Beam, who transformed into a shark form and took most of the blast for them. And he faces Rize on a rooftop, and then he refuses when she offers that they should probably give up. And let me take a moment here to talk about this scene with Beam blocking Denji from the blast by hiding him within his mouth. I love that scene. I imagine that if you are here watching this, if you're reading Chainsaw Man, you've probably consumed Naruto or Naruto Shippuden at some point. And spoiler alerts for it in case you haven't. But the scene where Denji is saved by Beam in that way really, really harkened back to the Sasuke and Deidara fight. Because if you remember, Deidara, to end the fight, he sets off like his C0 or C whatever his biggest explosion was, the one where he like eats the clay with his chest and like makes the lines go everywhere and he blows up into like a ridiculous explosion. If we recall, the only reason Sasuke survived that was because one of his snake summons, I don't think it was Manda, it was like Manda 2 or something, hides Sasuke within his mouth. Or we don't know if it was if the snake's idea was that, but that's what happened. Sasuke hid inside the snake's mouth to survive the explosion. And I thought that was a really nice callback to that, because I loved it when Sasuke did it, and I love it here when Denji and Beam did it. But yeah, it's beautiful. And so, again, at the end of the chapter, Denji's facing Rize on the rooftop. She tells him to give up. He refuses, and the chapter ends. Chapter 51, titled Dark Diving. And Rize opens the chapter by flicking another small explosion at Denji, which blows off his arm and sets him on fire. And then she annoyedly asks him to just accept death, because there's nowhere else for him to run. But he counters that by pointing at the ocean and saying, "You taught me how to swim, remember?" And then he questions whether or not she can explode if she is wet. And she flicks another blast at his other arm, but he manages to keep that arm attached to his body by placing a chain between his shoulder and his forearm. And then he flings the chains at her, which wrap her up, and then he goes and jumps into the ocean. And it's revealed that yes, she is completely unable to explode when she is submerged in water. And so they both just sink to the bottom of the ocean. Very beautiful. That's why it's called dark diving, obviously. And so we cut to the next morning, and she wakes up on the beach in her human form next to Denji and Beam, who is still unconscious. Then she asks why he revived her, and he says that it was for his own happiness, as he felt that if he had killed or captured her, it would have haunted him forever. Likely due to the fact that despite all of this going on, he does still have, despite what the bomb girl did, he does still have feelings for Rize. So, she says that she can kill him right now, and he says that's fine, as long as he dies to a beautiful woman, and that makes her laugh. She then says, "I never liked you, and every single moment that we had was all a part of my planning and my training." And she starts to leave, but Denji asks to go with her, explaining that he really did like her, and that even if it was all a lie, she still taught him to swim, which implies that there was some level of genuine affection happening there. And so hearing this, Rize turns around and moves towards Denji and breaks his neck. And then she walks away. But as she does that, Denji calls out and says to come to the cafe at noon if she changes her mind. And later on, they cut to him packing his bags and heading towards the cafe. And we end our chapter. So for chapter 52, which is titled Lost Love, Flower, Chainsaw, we see Aki and Kishibe as they are watching over the cleanup crew, taking care of the damage and wreckage from the night before. And Kishibe goes to tell Aki about an urban legend referring to a USSR military group that once performed human experimentation on children. He then says that that program was not just an urban legend, and that Rize is a product of said experimentation. He says that her real name used to be Muramoto. And then we cut to her, Rize, at a train station, and she's getting ready to run. But then she decides against that and decides that she's going to go and meet Denji at the cafe. So we cut to her, and she's in an alley that appears to be like directly across the street from the cafe, and she's all smiley and getting ready to go in. But as she walks to leave the alley, a swarm of rats kind of rushes past her, and behind her, it forms up into like a giant pillar. And a voice comes out of the pillar, and it's revealed that it is Makima. And so we'll get into that in a second. But she steps out, and she's talking about how she has always preferred the country mouse over the city mouse. And we think that it has something to do with the country mouse having the easy life and being safe and whatnot. But she actually says that the only reason she prefers the country mouse is because it gives her great joy and peace of mind to capture and kill them. Fucking wild statement, let me tell you. This is some real sociopath shit, sociopath, psychopath, something path, like crazy path, and so Rize, hearing that, well, first, before I move on, I thought that was an interesting statement for her to make, that she likes the country mouse because she likes to capture and kill them, and gives her peace of mind, because if you recall, a few chapters ago, when everyone else was having the same conversation, the Angel Devil reveals that he has always preferred to be a country mouse. He's kind of lazy, he doesn't want to do anything, but Makima has forced him to become a city mouse, which means that she found him and told him, I'm going to kill you if you don't work for me. Well, and that's where we are. And so, seeing all of this, hearing all of this, Rize goes to try and pull her pin in her neck, but her arm is instantly destroyed. And then Makima moves in and attacks it, like pushes her in the chest, which like knocks her off her balance. And as she's falling backwards, Angel Devil, who is here and standing on the rooftop above, throws a spear and impales Rize. And it's all fucked up and sad. And as she's sitting there, Makima walks over and takes her hand as Rize is kind of bleeding out and just looking at the cafe, which is just in her line of sight, as she lies there dying, and she's thinking about Denji. She thinks of how she didn't kill him on their first date because she hadn't been to a school before either, and she actually shared his excitement. Makima says to Angel Devil that he was supposed to bring Aki with him, but it was good that he didn't because she believes that Aki would have had trouble executing a woman. Rize's dead. And then we cut to Denji, who is at the cafe waiting with flowers, and he's super sad. As the owner says that everything will be alright, he'll find another girl, and Power walks in, saying that she followed Denji's scent, now that she's allowed back at work. And she thinks that the flowers that he's holding, are for her, but Denji just immediately, and she demands that he gives them to her, but then he just immediately, smiles and eats the entire bouquet of flowers. And with that, we end our chapter, we end our volume, and we officially end the Bomb Girl arc. Whew! Listen, let me tell you, as I have said it numerous times, this is my favorite volume and my favorite arc of the story. Now having come on the end of it, I hope that I hope that someone shares the same sentiment with me. If you do, if you don't, please get in the comment box below and tell me what you thought of my review and what you thought of the volume as a whole. Again, for me, it was incredible. We got a lot of Denji development. Him in this not really love triangle, but love triangle, trying to decide who he wants to be with, Rize or Makima. I thought it was so interesting that despite everything that happened after she was revealed to be the Bomb Devil and certainly seeking to kill him, that in the end, he still wanted to be with her, and were it not for Makima killing her, they probably would have ended up together, which I think is an interesting thought. I don't know. I think they may have ended up together, but it really could have just been her going back to finish the job and kill him at the cafe. We don't get to know now because she's dead, thanks to Makima, who has revealed yet another odd power. So we saw her we saw her back in the Katana Man arc do the shit with where she had the death row inmates sacrificing themselves so that she could like long distance gravity crush people. That was one weird shit. We then saw her in the same arc, actually, before that, we saw her get shot and survive that, which, she shouldn't be doing. And then, after that, we saw her talking to the Yakuza bosses and revealed that she had somehow, managed to take the eyeballs of, all of the people in that room's family. It was wild, a bag full of eyeballs, and she was using it to apply pressure to this motherfucker. Do what I say, or your people won't get their eyeballs back. And now we see her traveling as a pack of rats, traveling within a pack of rats. I don't know. It's weird, but just another display of her weird abilities. But again, as it was expressed earlier in the series, because she's so high ranking, we don't get to know what devil she has a contract with yet. So I couldn't even speculate what devil it would be, honestly, because like, is it the gravity devil? Is it the I don't get killed by bullets devil? Is it the rat devil? Is it the I take your eyeballs devil? Like, what is this bitch's deal? I can't wait to find out more about it. But besides all that, thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching my review. If you enjoyed it all, please leave a comment. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And please join me next time as we talk about Chainsaw Man, Volume 7. Bye-bye.